Well, it's an absolute pleasure to have Chris Ball here, who I can say is an absolute bundle of energy and enthusiasm for business. But Chris, for those who may not know you, how did you get into business?
I guess for me, it started from birth, like right from a toddler. I was ultra competitive, winning races, and I was always the kid that in school who was coming up with the games that everybody would play. And then I started just things like selling conkers and selling homework, and then it just kind of progressed. And I never kind of identified myself as an entrepreneur. Didn't do too well in school at all. A bit of a rebel without a cause. It wasn't until I actually got out of school and I started looking at entrepreneurship, looking into the mindsets of entrepreneurs, that I realised actually I'm not a misbehaved person at all. I'm just in the wrong environment.
Right.
School, that kind of thing wasn't for me, because in maths class, I had a web design book in front of the maths book, so it looked like I was reading maths. I was actually wanting to do my own thing. So I've always kind of just, whatever's going on, I just do what I want to do. And then it kind of just progressed from there, really. So I never kind of got into entrepreneurship. It's just always the way I've been, and then I identified that that's who I was.
And sort of how did you progress then with your business? Because I hear you went to, is it to Peter Jones's Academy?
Yeah,
was that a good learning curve for you?
Yeah, it was, yeah. So I found out about that before they actually released it to the public. So I was part of a course that they called Pathfinder, which was, they needed 28 students to trial run it. And I was lucky enough, it was almost like a scholarship type deal. They paid for our travel, accommodation. It was really good, intensive 6 months. And for me, that was the real kind of catalyst that actually kind of took me, the raw energy and enthusiasm I had, and actually said, right, well, this is how you kind of start a business. This is the way you need to think. And from then on, it's just spiraled. And I've been up and down the country. I've been involved in so many things, had so many failures, some great successes. It's just been an absolute roller coaster ride. But that's really how it happened, all from that point at 17.
Do you think academies like that then offer a real good foundation stone for especially people, young people wanting to go into business?
Yeah. Well, a lot of us thought we were going to be made, like that was it. We're going to do 6 months, and our names were associated with like celebrity entrepreneurs. It never happens like that. I think what they do, they give you the good groundwork, but you're never going to come out being a business person, because I know many people who have gone through them that have just kind of gone back. So you get out of it what you put in. But I think definitely if you're interested in business, go to things like that, because there's nothing else really out there at the moment.
Do you think as well that the recession at the minute, and with the media, they're always talking about the recession, do you think that's having a negative or a positive impact on maybe youngsters, maybe, wanting to explore business at all?
Yeah, I think in general it's a positive thing. There's a lot of startup initiatives going on at the moment, funding initiatives. Youth entrepreneurship is being talked a lot about at the moment because of the unemployment. So people look into other things. But I think it's about getting a balance, because I think at the moment there's a lot of talk about, it's almost like, yay, you can start a business and anyone can do it. And it's all kind of very fun and airy-fairy in a sense. And it's not just about starting a business. There's so much to it, so much to learn. And it takes a lot of commitment and persistence to start getting results. And so I think we need to bring people down a bit more and have honest conversations about business, as opposed to just being offered as another alternative. Because I think if you just try business to see how it goes, you're likely to fail. But if it's really for you, if you've really got something you want to get out of it and you're willing to put in the work, then I think you can make a real success of it.
Do you also think there's a lot of people who maybe weren't that academic at school? They weren't so great at
that was me.
That was you.
That was me.
But they've got key skills. How do you think that they can take that forward in business?
Yeah, well, I think the reality of life, since I've gone out into the real world, the world is like a jungle. You could just be going along one day and then boom, something comes out and gets you. And so I've seen people who've gone through the system, they've gone to school, then university, then come out. Even people like 2-1s from some of the top universities, when they get into the real world, they're actually not prepared for the reality of it because they've been inside a kind of bubble. And so I think people who do have raw skills, they should never feel kind of degraded or less of a person because they didn't do well academically. I did not do well academically, and I've exceeded beyond my peers. And they look to me and say, Chris, how have you done it? So I think the more risk you take, the safer you actually are in life. It's a bit of like an illusion if you take the safe option, because you're never kind of expanding your mind, you're never putting yourself out there. Then when the nature of the world happens and these things, go wrong, you don't know how to deal with them. So I think just get out there and give things a go.
Yeah, and I suppose another important thing is maybe to look at the schools and colleges as well. Do you think that more emphasis maybe could be put on, careers lessons and maybe business lessons for those people who may not be academic, but obviously have some key skills to offer?
Yeah, I think schools, academies, colleges, places like that, they're prone to telling people how to think or what route they should take. And I think we should be teaching people to think differently or expand their options and look at things in different ways, giving people kind of the underlying philosophies and leaving it to them to make their own, as opposed to say, well, you know, you could do business, but really, let's be honest, it'd be better if you went down there. That's not true at all.
A lot of young people I've spoken to have said that sometimes it's quite difficult going into the workplace. You know, they feel they've got real good key skills, and yet the older generation aren't quite receptive to them. How would you, you know, help someone who's really got that drive, you know, for being in business?
Yeah. I think, I mean, it may sound like a bit of a cliche, but real recognises real. And so when I have been in the workplace, if I've just delivered value and just like honest, good work, then sometimes middle managers will have a problem with that, but the people who are actually being given the work where it really matters, they've recognised my talent and actually pulled me aside and just said, keep going. We kind of understand that some people will be threatened by that, but we believe in you. So I think as long as you're delivering real value and you're not just kind of an office monkey, so to speak, then you will get people who respond to that and want you to continue.
And employers as well, they're in a difficult financial situation at the minute in this climate, but, you know, what would you say to them as well to encourage them to, you know, to employ youngsters in particular?
Yeah, I'd say is, do you want a steady Eddie who's going to be there for 10 years and just, you know, do the norm? Or would you rather someone who's young and vibrant and go in places, maybe there for 2 or 3 years, but they'll deliver more work in those 2 or 3 years than a steady Eddie would over 10 years? So, you know, you may be getting a higher turnover with the young people, but you know if you pick the right person, you're going to be getting real value out of them.
And just imagine, last question, just imagine for 1 minute that you were setting up your business tomorrow and, you know, you were starting all fresh. What would be the best piece of advice, you know, looking back on how you've progressed, that you could give somebody who's about to set up in business?
Read as widely as possible. There's so many different aspects of business. When you're an entrepreneur, when you're starting up, you have to wear so many different hats. You know, in the first hour when you wake up, you may have to hit the phones. Then you've got to get on and do the website. There's so many different things. And so I think the more you read, the more you explore and expand your mind to look at different areas. That gives you really good kind of structure to pull things together. And then you can use that to know where you're going, use that to give you an edge.
Chris, thank you very, very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure that you are going to go from strength to strength in the years to come. Thank you.